Hey guys, it's Scott with Adventure Further. Today we're going to do a walk around video of what we think is one of the ultimate overland rigs. We have a 16 Jeep Wrangler JKU with a Dakota Customs Hemi swap. So we have a 392 stuffed into this thing with a wonderful 8-speed transmission. We got rid of the V6 with the 5-speed and swapped it out for this. And besides that, having the next best thing that we added to it is this AT Habitat tent. It's a Ursa Minor and AT Overland actually did a coincided venture together years ago. And these are extremely hard to find. This is number 27 and the last one made off the assembly line. And we actually had to travel across the country to go get this thing and put it on our Jeep. But I tell you what, it's the greatest thing for a family of 4. Everybody can sleep up there and be comfortable, which to be in a Jeep Wrangler, which is not the biggest platform for a family, it works out pretty awesome. But then to top it off, besides having such a great tent on the top where it's still light enough to go off-road, we did 40-inch tires with Mickey Thompson Baja Bosses. And then with that as well, we did the UD60s. So we swapped out for, instead of the stock axles that just aren't strong enough to have the off-road capability where you can snap U-joints, axle shafts, literally rip the axle in half. Where with these, now they're 1-ton axles out of like a Dodge 3/4 ton. So they're much stronger for handling all the rigorous off-road that we do. Our rigs are not street princesses. We use them heavily. That's why they're heavily modded. And so with that, we have beadlock rims too. So between the 1-ton axles, the 40-inch tires, we also have beadlocks, which allows us to air down to about 8 to 10 PSI off-road. If we're really hard off-road, down to like 5, 6. But for every, when we go off-road, most of the time, we're somewhere around that 9 PSI. From there, we actually did a rock crawler 3-link kit front and rear on this thing, kept the stock fuel tank. We actually threw an aftermarket fuel tank in this thing as well from Genrite off-road. So we have an extra, I believe it's 22 gallons extra of fuel along with our stock fuel tank. So we have extra long range with this thing. We can go 500 miles or so, even with the V8. And that was a really, really great add-on because we were somewhere around 220 miles to a tank of fuel because this thing is just, it sucks gas. So having that extra range is really great. To do a walk around here and kind of show you the V8 in this thing stuffed under the hood here, underneath the tent. So there's not much room in this thing. We actually have about a finger's width behind the firewall to the actual back of the heads. And so it's the tight fit, but we got it to go. And then we also did PSE Hydro Assist in this thing, which allows us to, when we're off-road, air down quite a bit. The turning, I could still turn my tires with my pinky finger. That's how nice it is. So that made a big difference off-road as well with the big tires. But we got this thing in, and then we got down here to a Warn winch. We are heavy believers in the Warn products. This is a Xeon 10S winch, and we actually have these in all of our Jeeps. We actually have more than one. We're up to 5 that we personally own. All of them are off-road driven. None of them stay on-road. And so that is our winch of choice. And then we have it wrapped with rigid lights all the way around to make sure we can see clearly off-road. So that's another great thing. Then actually we'll go to the back here. We have the rear set up with a slide. So with the fridge slide, we can bring that in and out, and we can actually set it up with our stove as well. Open this up here. And this is actually, I don't remember the actual manufacturer, but we did get this from AT Overland as well. And then our partner stove goes right inside of here, and then all of our cooking stuff can be on the back side of the tray, which is really nice. Because we're so limited with space on this thing, having the slide tray really makes a big difference. And then we also did the Vector off-road rack back here for even more gear. So we don't waste all that space up top that we can't get to. And now we can have really usable space up here. So with that, it gives us an extra 1.5 feet by 4 feet of space. Then we ran a really large Renogy battery, which is a 200 amp lithium battery. It's all lithium. So the only drawbacks for that is if it gets below freezing, it doesn't charge. And if it gets below 0, it actually won't even produce power. It actually goes into a safety lockdown mode and waits for it to warm up. And luckily in Wisconsin, those days we don't camp when it's negative degrees very often. And if we do keep the battery warm. And then we have a 2000 watt inverter right above that runs off of the lithium battery. And that thing is awesome. I mean, it runs pretty much anything we want. So that's really great too, having that here. And then AT Overland also has an adapter for the rear of these canopies where you can put a propane tank on the rear. So this is really nice here, having this mounted to the back. We don't have to have it stored inside the vehicle. That is a really, really great add-on. And if I want, say we want to drive this around town and we don't want to have a propane tank on the back, it's literally 3 bolts on the back side that we can take off at any time and just have a flat plate that just kind of is incognito. So that's really nice too. But for the most part, this is an adventure rig for us. We don't daily drive it anymore. And it's ready to go when we're ready to go. At any given moment, we can take off and head up north or head out west. We're actually in the process of packing up to get another trip underway here and going to be headed out west again. Then up here we got the awning that we work close with Overland Vehicle Systems. They are a really great company and have really great products. So we actually got the brackets from Ursa Minor for the rear canopy. And then this comes back out to give us shade if it's really warm. Or rain, but for the most part when we're out west, it's mostly the heat that gets to us. So we try to have a little shade when we're cooking. Then we have our drop down slide tray from Front Runner. Have enough cooking surfaces here. That's really great. And then the tire carrier from TerraFlex, their HD tire carrier is really great. Supports that 40-inch tire on this back of this Jeep, no problem whatsoever. I mean, we got probably 20,000 hard off-road miles and hasn't gone up anywhere as far as moving. Tailgate still straight, doesn't wobble, doesn't shake going down the trail, doesn't make a bunch of noise. It's nice and quiet. So that is another great addition to the Jeep. So I would say I'd highly recommend that. One of the other great things from TerraFlex that we did on this Jeep is the suspension, the shocks. So with these shocks, there's actually Falcon 3.3 shocks, and then we did their HD skid plates on these things so that this way they don't get ripped off the vehicle. As you can see, we use them. They get banged up pretty hard, but at the end of the day, they still hold up for us and we haven't had any problems. It hasn't ripped anything off. But they make the ride quality. So when we're going down the road, we can actually turn them up to, like we run down the road normally at like 2, but if we're going on a gravel road, we can turn those things down to 1 and it actually gets even softer ride quality without even having to air the tires down. But we still normally air the tires down regardless of what the shocks are set at, just because to make the trail manageable, airing down the tires is key to it all. If you don't do that, it's really hard on suspension components. It's hard on you. It's hard on everything on the Jeep itself. So it makes a really big difference having it aired down. Normally, we'll carry a ARB dual air compressor within the rig. And that's what we use to pump up the tires on the way back. We have a little briefcase that we bring. If it's a rock crawling trip, because we do overlanding and rock crawling, that's why the rigs are built so rigorous that we have power tanks if we're just doing day trips and we're out in Moab going back and forth to the campsites and stuff like that, where we quickly want to air up, we'll actually use a power tank. So But I would have to say, for having a overland tent, we actually, it's one of the coolest things you can get. For we've tried the rooftop tents, and the rooftop tents just didn't work for us for a family. And so here, having this, you can see you actually get in the tent from inside the vehicle. You can use a ladder to get in from the backside, or from the outside, I should say. But with here, the opening inside is so much nicer. You can stand up to get dressed. You don't have to actually, you know, bend over when you're trying to put stuff on. You can stand up on the rear seat to get up in it, and it works great. Yeah, so inside this tent is just awesome. It's like 4.5, 5 feet tall, and almost 16 feet long. We just have to move these boards so we can get in. Can easily sleep 3, and comfortably sleep 4, but then you have to move the rear platforms to get out. So, I mean, that's the only thing where you have to pick up your clothes or your sleeping bags to get out, but it's amazing. And then we just throw an air mattress on front and back, and you're set to go. So as far as a rooftop tent, I would say this is probably one of the best options you could have. Unfortunately, they're really hard to come by these days. We don't plan on selling it anytime soon. I've had plenty of offers from people that say we want to buy it, but we just can't part with it. Our kids love it so much, and they think it's like a big fort up there because it's so big. We generally will sleep, the kids will sleep up front here, and then we would sleep right here in the back. And there's actually, I believe it's basically a 16-foot tent from front to back by 52 inches wide. So, I mean, there's a lot of space there to work with. And then if we need to, we use the steps to get up, to close it up. And when we're done and we're ready to get going, we actually will use the body armor steps that are all the way around the vehicle too, to get it closed up. It just makes it a lot easier. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess post in the comments below. I'd like to know if anybody else has any really killer rigs set up like this, where, you know, they can get a family in it. I haven't really seen much. I think there's a couple different manufacturers came out something similar, but just not to this extent of a camper shell built into a Jeep. So I'd like to see what you guys come up with. All right, guys. Well, I hope you liked the walk around video of what we classify as one of the coolest off-road overland rigs, and for multiple purposes, rock crawling or overlanding. We got it set up for it. So hope you guys like that. Post in the comments what you guys think, and we'll get some more videos out for you on some other reviews of some of our other Jeeps that we have that you haven't seen yet, along with some of our close friends that we travel with that have built up some really cool Toyotas. They got a really nice Toyota 4Runner and a newly built Land Cruiser on 37s that we're going to be showing on the channel here shortly too. You guys will probably like that. So let us know what you think.